From the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, this is a special edition of Inside Government with Cedric Peterson.
To our audience here at home and around the world, you are now inside government, where we're engaged in meaningful conversations about the initiatives that shape our communities. So today, I have the privilege of welcoming two remarkable guests from the nonprofit organization called Kingdom Courtyard. Now, this organization has partnered with the government of St. Martin's Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, specifically the Department of Community Development, Family and Humanitarian Affairs, to provide vital grief counseling workshops. Now, these workshops aim to support individuals and families in navigating the complex emotions of grief, a topic that often remains unaddressed in our society. Now, with a commitment to delivering high-quality services, Kingdom Courtyard and CDFHA recognize the profound impact that grief can have on individuals and the community as a whole. So today, in our special edition of Inside Government, we will explore the collaboration between these organizations, the insights gained from the workshops held at the Gaston Boasman Community Help Desk, and their plans for the future. I now welcome my guests, founder of the Kingdom Courtyard, Miss Audra Cabey, and psychologist, forensic mental health counselor, and Kingdom Courtyard member, Miss Zoya Hyman. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me as first-time guests inside government.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Cedric. It's good to be here.
Ladies, I want to get right into it. We don't have much time. Share with us the story behind founding of Kingdom Courtyard and how it has evolved since 2019. Audra, set the tone here.
Yes, so in 2019, my husband and I lost our son, Liam. I was 5 months pregnant and he was born too soon and he only lived for a few minutes. The same thing was repeated in January of 2021 with our daughter, Nava, and navigating grief was very, very difficult. But we heard the Lord say to us that we would be able to help others who are facing this exact same situation and bring them from the darkness that grief can cast to a place of light.
So that leads me to my next question, Audra, is how has your faith journey influenced your approach to education and teaching young minds?
Oh my, it's just so amazing to see the way that God works. The thing of it is that God has the entire picture, right? He knows everything. But for us, we only see pieces of the puzzle at a time. And each piece represents something different. And at the time when you receive a piece of the puzzle, you may not want to have this at all. Because for us, it was like we would prefer to have our children in the initial stages. We would have preferred to have our children than do whatever it is that God wanted us to do in terms of helping other people, right? But that is the human side of it. That's the flesh side of it, the brokenhearted side of it. But being people who are submitted to the Most High God, and because He is Abba, because He is loving and He is kind and He is a father, He takes His time with us to go through that process with us. And so even though I said no initially when He said it, due to my submission to Him and my honor to who He is in my life, saying yes eventually came, and letting go of the fact that I'm not going to get them back. My husband is not going to get them back, but we can help others who are experiencing this. That for us was just what it was.
Zoya, I want to have you jump in here and welcome you once again. Zoya, what inspired you to specialize in trauma and victimology within the field of mental health?
Yeah, I honestly think it was just the way I was born to think and be, because forensics is a particular way of studying the mind as we specifically work with victims and offenders. So naturally within that niche of experiences, personalities, trauma occurs. right? Trauma occurs. So to be able to understand what trauma really is, how it impacts the human system, the brain, the mind, the body, the spirit, the soul as well. It's like taking a fine tooth comb to the experiences that people have had. And I always tell this small story that when I was 8, my mom and I were walking, and I turned to her and I asked her, I said, Mom, why is it that if people know what is good, they just don't do it? So I was always curious. I was always thinking of what was happening in the world around me. And so as I completed my bachelor's and went on to my master's, the forensic field just felt natural.
Gotcha. Audra, back to you. With regard to women's relationships, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the key initiatives you've implemented to foster healthy relationships among women in community?
Honestly, Cedric, Kingdom Courtyard started in January of 2019. In late 2018, I felt the Lord saying to me to pour into a group of women who were a part of my circle, right? So in our living room, our small living room, I spoke to my husband and he was like, okay, sure, I'll just, go out for the evening. And I invited a group of maybe like 15 women to my home. They were not supposed to pay anything. So I got them gifts, I cooked them food, and we just sat and we spoke about some of the challenges that we faced as women. So that was our first little mini conference that I held with Kingdom Courtyard. And the idea was for it to be done the first Saturday of every January. So it started off as a place where women could come and be poured into and pour into each other, right? So for me, it has always been easy. It's always been easy to love people. It's always been easy to, pour into people and encourage people. So the premise of Kingdom Courtyard, it came pretty simply to me. But expanding now to assisting others with their grief, um, just because of the nature of it and my own pain that I faced, it was difficult at first. But with these sessions and welcoming women, welcoming men, that's the easy part. That's the easy part, loving them and guiding them to a place of light. Yes.
In what ways, specifically, if you can identify something that comes to mind based on this question, in what ways do you believe Kingdom Courtyard has transformed the lives of women on St. Martin since your organization began back in 2019?
Man, listen, just understanding that together we are stronger. Grief is something that wants to isolate you. Issues in life want to isolate you. Oftentimes we feel like we're the only ones going through something, right? But when you meet with others and you hear their testimonies, you realize, man, you're going through the same thing I am. I'm not alone in this. So it builds that solidarity. It builds that sisterhood, that brotherhood. It empowers you to know that when your arms are weak, when you can't do it anymore, it's like in the Old Testament, the 2 guys that held up Moses' arms in the air when he was too weak to hold them up anymore. So we have to hold up each other's arms in the moments where we are too weak to move forward. And so, just seeing even the women come to our sessions who were unable to discuss the situations that they had been through, the men as well discuss the challenges that they faced with, losing a child or grief in general, and just be able to open up at our sessions about things that they were previously unable to do. So it really builds that solidarity. It builds that support, that community that people need to be able to stand on their 2 feet eventually.
Gotcha. This question is for both of you. Both of you can chime in here. What specific challenges related to grief have you observed in our community?
Just the willingness to talk about it and open up about it. Yeah. It's difficult. It's a big, humongous ball of pain in your body, in your chest. And it's easier sometimes to just suppress it and keep it at bay, kind of put it to the background so that you can keep going and keep functioning, and so to ask people now to say, okay, let's uncover that pain and let it come up to the surface where they feel like they are absolutely going to break, where their bodies might experience panic and anxiety at intense levels. It's scary. And so it's easy to avoid it and just to continue going. I've heard so many people say, I haven't dealt with that yet. I haven't dealt with that yet. I haven't dealt with that yet. And they know it's there. They feel it. They acknowledge it, but they don't touch it. And so we've created the space through Kingdom Courtyard. It's now just continuing to encourage people and to support them even from afar, to let them know we get it, we understand it, and we'll be here whenever you're ready, hopefully soon, so that you can kind of clear that pain out of your system so that you're truly leading a functional quality life.
Simone, if you're just tuning in, I'm having an insightful conversation with representatives of the nonprofit organization Kingdom Courtyard. We have Mrs. Audra Cabey, and we also have Miss Zoya Hyman. Stay tuned as my conversation continues with these two dynamic ladies. We're going to get into the collaboration and goals that the organization Kingdom Courtyard has been able to forge with the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor by way of CDFHA. Stay tuned. You're Inside Government.
The greatest gift we can give to our child is to read with them. The adventures and discoveries that they read about will spark their imagination and enhance their future. Reading works wonders on their curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. Parents, guardians, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, godmothers, and godfathers, let's open our children's minds to the wonders of the world and for them to reach their potential by sewing the wings of reading onto their backs so that they may one day fly and soar, aiming for the moon and being amongst the stars. This message was brought to you by the Department of Communication.
If you're just joining us, you're Inside Government and having a conversation with nonprofit organization Kingdom Courtyard, founded by Mrs. Audra Cabey and its member, Zoya Hyman. Ladies, we left off in the first segment establishing that we're going to talk about the working relationship, the collaboration that brought you together with the government of St. Martin. I want to get into that now and talk about that collaboration. Audra, if you can set the tone there concerning what specific challenges first related to grief have you observed in our community? We covered that in the first segment, but I want to ask, how did the collaboration between Kingdom Courtyard and CDFHA initially came about, and what were the key goals that you guys set for this partnership in order for it to be successful?
It was just so amazing. And honestly, it's been God's doing from the inception, right? So after we lost our daughter, Nava, Zoya had started these classes, these breathing classes. And I signed up and I was going just to support my sister and then just, be a part of it. And that is where I met a lovely lady named Chantal Groeneveld. And so I was just saying in the session that, God was talking to me about starting Kingdom Courtyard and these sessions to help women and men who lost kids. And I was like, I'm not trying to do this. And Chantal said, I had never met her before. That's the first time I met her and we spoke. And she said, that is such a great idea. And she said, if ever you decide to do this, contact me. And she gave me her number. And I saved it as Chantal Kingdom Courtyard, because I figured I may have forgotten her name, right? 2 years later, which was last year, when finally I decided to go ahead and do this, I reached out to her, just to say, because, hey, you had said to me, I didn't even know where she worked. I didn't know I didn't know any of that, right? I just thought she was a lady who wanted to help. And so I reached out to her and tell her, hey, I'm starting this thing. It's official. We have our chamber, everything. And that was the connection. And she said, Audra, I want to help. And that is exactly what she's done. We met with her, Zoe and I met with her. And we're so grateful because it was through her. At first, we had nowhere to go. We didn't know where we were going to hold these sessions.
Right.
And then here comes Chantal saying, I've got 4 locations. Choose which one you want. And that just kind of blew my mind. I was weeping and
Nice.
Zoe, so, but that is how it began.
Nice. That is a great and inspiring start to a great initiative. Elaborate more on the specific roles that each organization played in the development and execution of the grief counseling services.
Yes. So for us, it was, so we met with Chantal, we met with her at her office, and we went around, we selected the spot, and it was so amazing that when we went to the Hope Estate branch, it looked like you were actually walking into a courtyard. So we knew that that was just the perfect location. She met with us. She made sure she finalized because, we needed to have a contract. We would try this out for a year to see how it goes, how we like it, how we're working together. And it has just been so beautiful in that Chantal and Chashana are just so loving and kind and helpful. So, we set up everything that we would use that particular location, and, everything that the building comes with, we would have access to, and we would not have to pay for anything because we didn't have the money to do that. And that is kind of where our 4CR came in, because I was new to this. All I had was the experience of grief and the vision that God gave. So, and who God told me would have to be on the team. So naturally, Zoya, my sis, was the first person I reached out to because she went through this journey with me. She knew what it was like. And she was oftentimes the one that I called to say, hey, I need to vent. And she was always that listening ear. So we built our team that God set. And I'm so grateful because the team came along with the experience that I didn't have. I have the experience of grief, but they have the professional side of it. And Zoya was like, there's this funding agency that funds, and she is the one who made contact with our 4CR. And I went and she did most of the talking because I was new to it. And so our 4CR loved the idea. They were like, there's nobody else doing this on the island. And it's not that we did research about it or anything. I just knew what God said that I had to do. So there was no one doing this. They thought it was incredible. We were a first-time NGO, and they said, yes, they would fund us. So that's what it's been. That's what it's been.
Can you describe the structure? Let's get into the workshop details now quickly. Can you describe the structure and the content of the grief counseling workshops?
Yeah. So the sessions are formatted in a group setting, and we have it as an open group where people can join in at any time, at any point in time. And this was a conversation we had with participants so that they would know, hey, if you have somebody new coming week 6, that they wouldn't feel as though they didn't know that person, or that person was a complete stranger entering into an established relational dynamic within the group. So participants agreed to the open format so that we could keep the space open to any person who wanted to join. And so the groups are going to stay as open groups for now. There's been no real hesitation for that from the participants. And so when we come in, the participants are able to just freely talk and share how they're doing. And what we do as group facilitators is to inform them on exactly what it is that they're experiencing, primarily reviewing the different stages of grief. And though those stages don't happen linear in a line. You don't go from one stage to the other every 2 weeks. It doesn't happen like that. But we do use the framework of the stages of grief to help individuals understand what it is that they're feeling. And we do a lot of psychoeducation. Psychoeducation is helping them to understand what's happening, what is an emotion, why do we experience emotions, what do those emotions mean and do, depending on where the person is. You'll have other group members, for example, a participant who has just lost a child maybe this year, compared to Audra, who has lost a child now 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Audra has been through those stages, and she's now in a different stage. So a participant just coming in those primary initial stages, Audra is able, for example, to share a particular part of her experience to let that individual know, hey, been there, makes total sense. Here's where I'm at. 2 years later, 5 years later, it won't happen the exact same way for you, but I'm here as a testament to let you know that it is possible to move through those stages, as heavy, as painful, as dark as they may be. And we're all here to do that with you. So to create also that sense of support and empowerment.
Ladies, are there any prerequisites for participants to join the workshops?
No, just having lost.
Initially, we had it for parents who lost their kids, because that was the initial target group that we were working to support. And now, as we're growing and transitioning, we're opening it up to any person who has lost a loved one in general. So it started out as a niche, but now we're expanding to general grief overall.
Gotcha. Okay. Zoya, you started to get into an area with a question that I also had there concerning methods and techniques that are used in the workshops when you mentioned a specific part of your science, which is psycho...
Education.
Help me there. Psychoeducation. Are there any other methods and techniques used, or is that the primary, or is there other methods that you use within these workshops?
Yeah, so the psychoeducation is what happens in the group, but what we use are our modes of treatment. So, for example, we have a cognitive behavioral approach where your thoughts, your behaviors, and your emotions / feelings all work together to create this experience. Now, sometimes if there's been a trauma or a grief or a loss, this person is being impacted in a way that might not be in accordance with what is actually happening. So, for example, a parent feeling guilty because of the loss of their child, because of something they may have done, quotations for listeners, we have to address that. So your thoughts are telling you that it is your fault. This is creating an emotion of guilt and a feeling of perhaps depression or anxiety. Now, a cognitive behavior approach wants to ensure that the thinking, feeling, and behaviors are appropriate to functioning. So we'll go into that thought and say, well, is there a different way of seeing this? Can we create a different perspective? Can we explore our cognitions, our thoughts, to see if they're aligning with rationality and fairness and truth? So that's just one example. So within psychoeducation, we use at times a CBT model, cognitive behavior therapy model, to help the individual process what it is that they're experiencing. There are a couple of others that we use, but that's just one example of one of them.
Great. And thank you so much for sharing the details on that. It's such a great science that you are in. It's so involved, and I'm sure that there's much more that we can learn. But we are so out of time. And ladies, I would really like to invite you back for another session with me to get more insight into how this all works within grief workshop and counseling. Giving you the opportunity now to provide final words to the community of St. Martin. Starting with you, Zoya, what would your words be to the community that probably doesn't know how to handle issues of grief within themselves? What would you advise?
Yeah, I guess I just want to take this from really, as St. Martiners, as people on this beautiful rock, we actually go through things, and that's a reality. We lose people we love, and we face very, very difficult, challenging situations in our lives. And every single person listening to this, I could bet a lot of money, has gone through something. And so it's not shameful. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you are weak and that you're no good. It simply means that we are humans living in this world, a part of this experience, and we face very challenging things. And we aspire to create a space where we can come, feel safe, talk, deal with those very difficult things, so that once we go back into our lives, we feel like, hey, life is worth living. St. Martin is beautiful, and we can find enjoyment and joy within it, through it all. And it might not seem real or possible. It might seem like a bunch of mumbo jumbo that's coming out of our mouth, but we really promise and say that it is possible because of what we've seen as part of Kingdom Courtyard, but also throughout history of time, we have seen people overcome grief. So it is possible. And Kingdom Courtyard just wants to continue to create this space and empower and inspire you to take good care of yourselves.
Audra, final words?
Yes, I just want to quickly say that our sessions are expanding as of next month to, as Zoya said, those who experience grief in general. So whether you've lost a family member, a spouse, a child, a sister, a cousin, and you're struggling with that grief, you are free to join our sessions. We're also expanding to those who are facing fertility issues, women who are unable to get pregnant, and you're struggling with that mentally. Women who had abortions done and you're struggling with that. Even those are parts of grief. You're also grieving in these areas, right? So we're a no judgment zone. We're open and available. We're free. It is a free resource in the community. People won't have to pay to come. So you just need to join. And I just really want to encourage them that we are here to support. We are here to help. And what my husband and I went through was gut-wrenching. It was hard. It was I don't think there are enough words really to describe just how hard it was, but here we are today. Here we are today. It is possible to live in that light and carry your loved one with you, but still enjoy life and live life to the fullest.
Founder of Kingdom Courtyard, Miss Audra Cabey, and psychologist, forensic mental health counselor, and Kingdom Courtyard member, Miss Zoya Hyman. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me as first-time guests inside government and sharing this valued information with the public of St. Martin.
Thank you, Cedric, for having us.
Thank you, Cedric.
It was my pleasure. And for our radio listeners, television viewers, online viewers, if you've missed my conversation with these two dynamic ladies, be sure to get more information about their services at kingdomcourtyard.com. If you have missed the conversation itself, you can actually get video on demand at the official YouTube channel of Government of St. Martin at youtube.com at Government of St. Martin, or the Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin at facebook.com/SXMGOV. And for audio playback, we invite you to tune into St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM throughout the course of the day. On behalf of the folks at Kingdom Courtyard, my colleagues at the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, specifically CDFHA, and all of us here at the Department of Communication, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thank you so much for tuning in.